Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Exploring the Indigo Frequency. My name is Lisa Gunshore, and I am joined, as always, for our special show with Denise Dryden. Welcome back, Denise.
I've been so excited about this. And I do have to warn you, it's never a good idea for me to drink a cup of coffee while I'm writing the outline for the show, because now I'm like, let's go. Here we go.
Yeah, and it's the energy too. I think we're both ready to talk about everything today. There's so much to dive into, and we loved all of your participation. Geez, last month, and we're excited to have you back again. So please, if you have questions or any comments or anything you want to share from last week or how you're feeling about the energy and the eclipse we just had, you can absolutely put that in the comment box. And I have to share, we're going to talk more about this after in a little bit, but I do have to share that I just received Denise's book. Yay! I just got it.
It's hard that it's here. It's in physical form. It's the theory and into the printed word. It's so cool.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I cannot wait to dive into all these details, especially after everything we've already talked about. And so we'll talk more about how you can get Denise's book and some other fun things here in a little bit. But Denise, you want to start us off?
Well,
I know.
Okay. What I want to do is always continue to build on and normalizing the core factors of what it's like to be an indigo, that we are warriors, we are gladiators, we are masters from other parts of the galaxy, other places where we have been experts in our fields, in who we are and what we do. Coming into this form, into this human form on a dense 3D Earth has been challenging, let's just say, to say the least, it has been challenging, right?
Yes.
And what we know, or what we can talk about as we sort of touch base and go along, is the idea that I just realized I haven't been able to see any comments. What we would do is we want to be able to look at the fact that things like eclipses and solar flares that are agitating or bringing up some energy in us are awakening those memories within us, or sort of, I like to call them the power wash. They're washing off that sludge, that stuff that keeps us sort of feeling like I didn't know who I was until I do. Okay. Mm-hmm. So some new perspectives that we're going to talk about tonight is that, we're a seeded frequency that's here to dismantle and clear some of the old stuck frequencies. We've said that, for 4 times before. However, it's different now, because we aren't here just to clear the old stuck frequencies. We're here to shift the frequency vibration of the earth grids, and we're going to create little hubs. We're like in trainers. We move wherever our energy goes. We become our own little power sources, right? So this means that we are an intentionally seeded human population, these little power centers that with each eclipse and each solar flare, we wake up a little bit more, and there's going to be some discomfort around that, which we're going to talk about today. And that 1977 was when the main population started coming in mass, and they dribbled in before as scouts, and they continue to come now. We have indigos coming in with our newborns right now with different power packs. It's almost like the refined indigo warriors coming in, and each decade they come in, they have more technology, more refined skills, because those of us who came in the 50s or 60s, or in mass like you in the 70s, 80s, what that means is that we had the very best ideas, and then with observation and training, we've been upgrading this. What do you have to do when you go into this dense field? So that's where we are right now with our indigo, and we're just on episode 5 beginning to explore more about what it's been like for our bodies.
Yeah. And our bodies are a journey. I know, it's so much. Our bodies are a journey. And I want to say, hello to everybody who's joining. We have Danny Marie from California, and I welcome the rest of you guys. I can see your little numbers ticking on here to just share how you're feeling. I would love to hear how everybody's feeling from the eclipse, because I think Denise and I shared earlier today before the broadcast about how we felt and what we experienced. And I'd love to hear where you guys are at too. So do share that as well. And, you know, the last show, we talked about the Ascension Glossary, and we talked about these Indigo 1, 2, and 3 and what they focus on. And I know you have updated information for us, and I'm dying for you to share. It's so good and juicy and rich. So do you want to share and dive into that?
Absolutely. Okay, so the Ascension Glossary, in essence, was started in 2005 and moved along between 2015, 2019, 2020. And it looks and feels like a Wikipedia. It's set up the exact same way, only you can type in Dracos, reptilian. You can type in Indigo. You can type in anything that is sort of one of those esoteric or intergalactic terms that you haven't been able to understand, and there will be a definition there. So we were playing with the Indigo and Indigo races on the Ascension Glossary, and there's classifications as the Indigo 1, the Indigo 2, and the Indigo 3. Well, for those of you who have read the book already, I work with channeled information. So I have worked with Araya for the last 11 and a half years, and then most recently with Lucas. Now, Lucas will come in through his channel and he'll watch our show. And then sometimes as I'm going along, there's this text that comes in from the woman who channels Lucas going, Lucas wants you to stop talking about, and this is what happened last time, stop talking about 1, 2, and 3. They aren't 1, 2, and 3 anymore. That was the sort of the progressive steps of growth within the Indigo, and that now what we are is we are a blend of all three of those. So what I did to prepare for this today was to go through and go, well, like, where are they blended, and how do we start to see that not a division line between there's like this grid worker and frequency holder, there's this healer, and then there's this polarity breaker, which is how do we blend all three of those together? So what we want to do is look at the distortions in the genetic levels that have existed here on Earth, and that we came in to work with those distortions. We came in to work with the closed loop system, the enslavement practice, the distortions, the way that the human energy systems and familial systems have been locked in this repetitive conditioned pattern. And so that's what we're really going to dive into today is what does it look like when we get in there, and what's it like on our bodies?
Just hearing you say that is like, oh, that's so fun. And speaking of which, I've just been blocking. And so I'm like yawning consistently, if anybody's noticing, like I am right now, and I am not bored, but I just activated my parasympathetic nervous system for the last 90 minutes and I can feel it. So I'm just saying that out loud so that somebody is going to watch this YouTube and comment. So I'm just going to address it now in front of the comments.
Well, and when I get enthusiastic, I get really, I talk faster. So, you know, I will be conscious of the fact that my enthusiasm is really up on this topic. Okay.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Cause you know, we always are aligned, and today was no different. And I do want to share. So Katie does share. Hi, Katie. We love you so much. And Katie just said the eclipse felt like the Tower card, followed by the Phoenix in the most loving way. I love that. I can't wait to hear more about that. And Danny is sharing the night of the eclipse was intense for me. Lots of strange dreams. And yeah, that came up a lot in the community this week too, in the portal, a lot of strange dreams, some violent dreams, lots of weird stuff going on usually. So I have a weird thing, and then we're going to get into this list because it's so good. Weird thing about lunar eclipses since I was a kid. Don't know why, don't know where that inherently came from. But as soon as the moon goes black, I have to go to sleep. I have to go straight into the dream state. I won't stay up anymore. So we watched the eclipse and watched it go to the black moon. And as soon as that moon was covered, I went to bed. And I do have really cool dreams during that time. But that's been that way my whole life, interestingly enough.
Wow. You know, I wish I could have gone to sleep. You know, I wish I could have seen it because it was cloudy here in Montana. And I shared with you that as the eclipse, it's like 4 days before and 4 days after the eclipse is when the energy starts to build and bring it forth. And what I noticed was, you know, those movie scenes where somebody gets zapped with a spell or electronic device and it freezes them into like cement, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what I noticed was that Friday evening, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday, I could feel all of my systems tightening up and getting stiffer and stiffer to the point where I could hardly walk on Saturday and Sunday. I was waiting for the eclipse to go over, and then woke up Monday morning and I literally felt like I'd been, you know, bulldozed. I was stiff and sore all over. And then it was interesting, hour by hour from Monday morning on, was like, where did that go? It's not here anymore. So it was just like a contraction and it was like cracking, and then like it broke through something. And it was visceral and it was challenging, yet, you know, I knew it was the eclipse and I knew it had something to do with that. So I knew it would pass. And I'm not sure if those of our family members or our friends who may not be aware of some of these solar flares or the eclipse progressions, you know, don't get really frightened when something happens to our bodies, or we're starting to feel a tightening or a pain or temporary blindness or stuffed up sinuses, something that can be so extreme that we aren't sure where that came from and we don't know how to research it. So I love the idea that we have a following here, and we have men and women who are so curious about learning what else is going on and how do I anticipate that.
Yeah, which is really what we're going to get into today. And I have a feeling we're going to continue to talk about this going forward, which is how do we know when our body is doing something based on the energy, you know? So I think of her as my psychic mom, because she's not my real mom. She's just an older woman who is a psychic. But I met her when I was 17, and she's just this little Texas psychic. And even now in her 70s, I mean, I remember her talking about it all those years ago, but you know, she had certain pains like back pain when there was an earthquake, or a migraine when there was going to be a plane crash. Like, she knew based on her body what was going to happen in the world. And I think that's a something for all of us to like keep in mind, just like you're saying, whether it's the eclipse energy that's affecting us. Now we have all of these solar flares, which are very intense compared to what they've been ever. And then we also have just things going on inside of our body based on our environment and all of the things we talked about the last show too. So
Yeah. And it makes sense. We talked last month about the importance of grounding. And I remember when I was in mystery school having our teacher talk about, like, what is your relationship with Gaia? And I was kind of like, it's the earth, you know, I know how to ground, I know how to walk in nature. And I sort of had my ass handed to me, like literally, like, do you have a relationship with her? And I was thinking, her, yeah, maybe, no. And then I had to go through the process of realizing that, similar to the way that you and I are talking and flowing together and interacting, in the way that we have people watching this and providing interactive feedback, that our relationship with the earth is the same way. And if we can embody and keep our feet on the ground, we can start to match and work with her, and she's there to help us. We're not doing this alone. We have an entire planetary system that is here to help us, but we have to be able to get into our bodies and trust that we're all part of it, and sort of ride those waves. And we've talked about this before. The essence of actually grounding in seems to be much more important than it, to me, and to our stability, than I've ever noticed before.
Yeah, I agree. And the community. I think there's so many of us, not only conscious, but also connecting with one another. And that, I know for me, has made a huge difference to have community that I can trust and people I can text and say, what are you feeling? Because this is what I'm feeling. And that's really helpful, because it used to be there weren't very many of us to really talk to each other. And now I have several colleagues that I can text and ask where they're at with the energy. And that's really helpful for all of us too. And here we have, you guys, we have Denise's YouTube channel and Buddhist Biohacker. Like, we have our channels and, you know, this community that we're building digitally, which is part of the age of Aquarius, which I love so much as well. So
it's also part of our purpose is to create these tribes and these hubs. And we're going to get to that further down. So I just wanted to make sure that that is actually part of what we're here to do, is to create a tribal connection with someone that maybe doesn't live next door or in your house, that lives in Colorado when I live in Montana, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, you're activating something with me that I was thinking of earlier today too, for all of us with community, is we did kind of all go digital and global and virtual and everything. And I think what I'm noticing too is now it's about seeing who. I've noticed that here in Colorado, for example, the spiritual communities have completely changed. And I started looking at what's going on and what groups are out there and what's being offered. And all of it has transformed and new things are coming out. And there's a lot more in alignment with me now than there was before COVID. So I think that's something really important for everybody to look at too, is not to forget that you do have local community and to find each other through these virtual communities too. So that's part of why I say every single show, you guys know, I say share where you're from, because you never know if one of your neighbors or friends or somebody is sharing in the same experience as you, which is important.
Yeah, I agree. And knowing that this internet web system was able to take us and bring us music first, then pictures, and now videos, where we can actually work together and cross time and space. These were all the technologies that were organized and put into form by the Indigos and by the Gen Xers. However, it wasn't possible until the crystalline energy came onto the planet, which is how to put vibration into coding that can be transferred. So we're looking at 89 and forward was when the system started to really hold the vibration. So the indigos, crystals, rainbows, and diamonds, they all have this progressive series of technologies that they bring in. So it just makes me smile that we can do this and it's possible.
Oh my gosh, and live too. So, okay, so when we go back to, is there anything else you want to share today about the Ascension Glossary?
Well, what I wanted to do was go through the physical challenges and walk through, I think I put together maybe 9 points from the Ascension Glossary that walked it through, that made sense to me as to why we're having physical challenges.
Okay.
So I'll just sort of, and this is where the history geek in me starts going, like there's actually a traceable progression. So the first thing is that when we're talking about the indigo frequency, the light codes, and the DNA coding that we have been, we addressed in the frequency, and we know that the indigos hold, it is a 6th chakra energy. It's pineal gland. So when we know that the pineal gland is the most important lighthouse beam system of the indigo, and that's how we receive, and that's how we emit, and that's how we transfer information, is through the pineal gland, then we know that we're here to regenerate and activate all of our DNA through the pineal gland, right? And so knowing that that is our first and foremost interest area, is that this section of our endocrine, where there's pineal thyroid, and it goes through this, the glandular system is how it communicates and talks to the whole body. So this is the galactic main point. So that was the first one. And then the second thing is that we are meant to take this frequency and to establish hubs, whether it is little webs of 5 people in a family, whether it's a community of gathering of a bunch of indigos living in one town, or a bunch of indigos crisscrossing and talking to each other across the globe. The idea is that these frequency hubs interact with each other. So we activate each other. And so the word that came up for me is that we're in training. We are actually, when we hum, like we're doing right now, then Katie and Danny, and anyone else on the screen is starting to hum at the same time because we're activating that. And if you look at the screen, I like the little round half bubble up top. It's just glowing in pink, which sort of shows hub can be activated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that what we're doing is we're interacting with the karmic patterning in these cycles. So we came in as healers. We didn't come in just to hold a frequency. We came in to activate and clear karma, which is, how do we start healing centers? How do we start doing work? How do we start building healing processes and technologies that help us strengthen this frequency in these activations so that we can create more hubs? Because we're looking at taking the population of Earth, or the Terrans, and bringing them all into a higher, more comfortable frequency. And we know that comfort is not necessarily a word we would think of using, because there's a lot of discomfort when you're dislodging from one and going to another, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
However, the end goal is that it is going to be much easier because we're free from all of these karmic patterns and conditionings and enslavement and closed loop systems that we've been under, which is what we're here to do. So there's a lot of contraction pushing on the biological field, the genetic field, and we came into a contracted, what we're going to call hostile physiology, which has a DNA structure that is going to hold this way. And we came in with an expanded DNA. And so we're in an aggressive, combative situation with our soul and our body. Our body's flowing with the 3D and doing what is going on Earth. And we're coming in and it's going, no, you can't make me. And so we're having this power struggle, or we're experiencing polarity within our own physical system.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I never picked that up before, that we are actually in a combat situation or a competitive situation at all times with our bodies.
Yeah. And some direct examples from myself about that too is, very simply, like, I have certain allergies, and the foods that would benefit, like, that are the opposite of that, actually affect some of my genetics negatively. So green tea is a perfect example. If I have it, it does one thing really well, and then it does one thing really bad. So it's like always counterintuitive. So I'm always having to trick my body. Like that's a lot of the MTHFR we talked about, where I'm like tricking my body. And so that's just an example of how that can actually manifest in a very real way, like in a linear way.
Right. And imagine coming into a family system that is very traditional in its food choices, or, very used to, for 2, 3, 4 generations, processed foods, fast food, eating out, doing things. And all of a sudden you have this system where you grew up that way, but you were always had digestive issues. You had stomach aches. Mm-hmm. You were overwhelmed with crowds or packaging or the smell of food oils. Like, to me, the Burger King smell is something that I can hardly stand. And Albertson's deep fried chicken smell in the store at all times. I can't go into those places because they smell like that kind of processed food. Mm-hmm. So this is, the body may be going this way, but the soul inside is going like, no, we're not supposed to do that. And it's not working. And then there's this give and take, because we're here to adapt the physiology and turn it and take it in a different direction, because it's old energy and new energy, and they're not necessarily collaborating, right?
Yeah, totally. And the more that we expand, right, the more that's happening too.
The more, and think about it with the solar flares. If we have a light activation, which is giving a portion of our system, like a a shot of adrenaline or a boost of vitamin C, or like helping us feel a lot more connected to our purpose, and our body's like, no, here I go. So then we have headaches and we have ear ringing and we have digestion and we can't sleep because, again, our bodies and our souls are out of sync with each other. And when they're out of sync and we are not paying attention to that, I think the most common trauma response system that we've experienced is that we have issues with parents, we have issues with childhood, we have issues with pain, we have issues with this doesn't feel good. So when I have any inkling of that coming up, I disassociate, I step back, I disconnect. What if we are having some of those same responses to our bodies, which is when I'm being tapped on the shoulder, like movie popcorn's probably not good for your body, right? Then there's this guilt and there's this inner dialogue and this battle going on between I like it and it's not good for me. And it activates that same shame, blame, trauma reaction. So we're having it with our bodies as much as we're having it with the external world.
Yes. Yes.
It's sort of like, I don't know, my mind is being blown at this point because what I didn't know prior to this afternoon when I was like, why MTHFR? Why the endocrine system? Why the digestion? Why are these very specific things happening? When I came across the idea that the pineal gland is in the endocrine system, and the endocrine system is the glandular maintenance and hormonal balance system of the entire body. And when that is not being recognized, it starts to act out. Then the symptoms aren't coming from the outside in, they're coming from the inside out. So when we looked at the idea that there's this polarity, which is the level 3 indigo, which is like, I'm here to blend the masculine and the feminine, the old energy and the new energy. I'm the bridge. When there's that distinct polarity, we have to work with it within the human system first. Mm-hmm. Because if we can't, it's great to sit here and say roles of women, rights of different countries, political expressions. Those are all one or the other systems out here that we're pointing our fingers on, and we're taking sides of this is right, that's wrong, I agree, I don't agree. But if we aren't balancing this internal polarity first, then we're just distracting ourselves with the external, which I think is the hardest challenge of the indigo, is that if we were given a wiped memory, then there's no way we would realize that we're going to be up against an internal hostile environment within our body first. And we have to learn how to love and partner that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the big insight I had over the weekend and that I was expressing today also is that the more that I'm going into my body, so I'm using block therapy and yoga and sound healing and all those things, the more that I'm going into my body and becoming present with myself, the more my patterns are coming to the surface. And which is exactly what you're saying, which is the external for me is kind of like, it's not even falling away so much as just there's a consciousness to it. So it's like you see the external patterns and they immediately dissolve because you recognize the pattern. And now that's kind of dissolving, like the scene in the movie is kind of fading to black. And all that's left there is me. And then I have to deal with me. And it is very uncomfortable. It's that moment of like, ooh, like this is me. Like, that's not good. Like that's, and so then you have to deal with the loop in that, which is all the self-loathing and the stress of, not feeling good enough or whatever those tapes are for each person. But, once you start to correct you inside here, you're right. Like the external kind of becomes all just noise, I think. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
I think you put your finger on it, Lisa. And if there's this external thing going on, right, which is like whatever's going on out in the world is affecting me. Well, it also when we shift it to the inside out, it explains things like how when we're in that internal dialogue that our muscles and our bones hurt, or how our weight can go up and down. Like I can gain 20 pounds and lose 20 pounds within a week, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never weigh myself, because it's never about how many calories I eat or how much I exercise, because I have this regular routine, and I can just sit there and go, boom, and I'm like, okay, so what just happened? And then I start to clear out the inside and get more aligned with myself, and it comes right back in. And so our inflammation might be based on the inflamed genetic historical DNA system not partnering with this new frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then we know how to bring the inflammation down. Yes, there are external things we can do. We can change our nutrition and diet. We can look at supplements like magnesium and minerals and bringing some things in that help it easier, make it easier. But then we're also sort of like soothing it. Like, here, I think you'd like this. This is really good. Why don't we try this?
Yes. Well, and I can't say enough about the block. And I have to say, like, I really haven't felt the same. So normally with like solar flares and earthquakes and just general earth things that are going on, earth and sun, I would say, I can be incredibly fatigued and feel dense and feel sluggish and feel just, I think sluggish is the best word, when you're like, I just need to get through this day.
Wow.
And what I've noticed this last month, especially, is rather than feeling that, I've had 2 beautiful and powerful Kundalini awakening shifts, like physical experiences, 2 of them now. And I'm having incredible creative inspirations. And I do believe a lot of that has to do with working with a block and working with my body. So even if you don't have a block therapy or you don't even know what that is, like working with the body and being in an embodiment practice has completely changed how I'm receiving the light codes and the frequencies that are coming in right now, I feel. And it's been awesome.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it. It reminds me of there was a period in 2017 when I just kind of went like, I'm done. I can't deal with this relationship anymore. I can't deal with this town. I have to go somewhere and just run away for a little while. So I ran up to Bainbridge Island, and I found this guest house literally like 200 yards from the water, and sat in that place like, oh no, I have to figure me out here. What I learned was that I tried other things on the external. Is it about walking? Is it about diet? Is it about friends? Is it about classes? And when I finally turned around and said, so Denise, what do we want to do tonight? And it was always the same thing. Put some music on, light some candles, open the yoga mat, and let's do some stretching. So it was very slow, gentle, deep stretches, and then a lot of, like hand massaging, foot massaging, knee massaging, shoulder massaging. And it was as if I was a completely new person on the other side of that. And it was interesting how often I forget that. Oh, I'm too busy. Oh, Denise, I don't have time, and I think that was the one thing that for 2 years up there on the island, I was able to bring myself completely in body and stay embodied, which is our goal, which is how do we partner with the body and do what you and the body want to do and alleviate the pressure points, alleviate the places where the energy isn't flowing and the field is open and it's not blocked.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could say many things about that. So I'm just pausing because so my first real shift out of my sleepy 20s, because I would say the first from like age, I'd just say 20 to 25. I was definitely like, did not access my gifts, I kind of just told all the spirits to be quiet every day, and just that was that.
Go away. Busy.
Yes. I just want to be a normal person, right? I want to be a muggle. Leave me alone. And one of the biggest awakenings was mindfulness of the body. And it's in my book, Enlightenment Pie. Like, I put my hands on my body and I was like, what is going on here? And I don't think I'd really seen myself in a long time. And I don't think I really connected with my body in a long time. And it is so profound and important. And I'd love for you to expand on this, but I also want to take a moment just to share about your book so that people can connect in. I know you have a new class, but after, we're going to share her book in class, but then after that, I'd love for you to expand on, why indigos want to connect with their body, and just keep going deeper into this. But I would love for you to share with everybody how to obtain your new book.
Thank you.
Yes.
You can get it on Amazon. I self-published, and it just made sense to make sure that anyone could get it in any time. And so it's on both paperback and it's on Kindle. So you can do it. You can head over to Amazon, look under Denise Dryden, look under Indigo. You can head over to my author page and sign up and subscribe to that, so that as we begin to build this. And I just wanted to do a shout out to Katie, who's here in our discussion, because Katie was my editor. Katie's the one who said, this is a good class. You should turn this into a book. And I was like, really? And, without Katie's guidance and nurturing and support, I don't know that this book would have been as easy to write. And it was just fabulous to have that help. So it's divided into 6 sections, and it sort of takes you on the journey of what we've talked about the first couple shows briefly, but by, in a lot broader perspective. It sort of takes you into what is an indigo, and then takes you down into the wounds and challenges, and then brings you out on the other side with these tools of embodiment and self-awareness. So by all means, Amazon.com on that one. Please go look. Okay.
Yes. And the link is in the show notes here on my YouTube and on Denise's YouTube. And it will also be in audio. We're on all 10 audio platforms. So everybody who's listening to the replay later, the link will be in there as well. And please, we want to get Denise to 500 YouTube subscribers so she can earn her community page, so she can share with you guys. And so please go over to Denise Dryden's YouTube channel and subscribe if you've not already. You won't be sorry. And let's support her to get her community page. And yeah, Katie is on my list as well. I'm revising Enlightenment Pie, my first book, and I also have a second one to edit. So Katie's going to be busy with me eventually here. So yes. And then you also have a new master class. So share that too.
Yeah. Since the book came out, I've had a couple of calls of someone who's like, hey, can I do Indigo deep dive? Can I do, some deeper work? And I thought, I did a master class with Simona on remothering on Chiron, and I loved it. And so what I've decided to do is June 1st through July 9th, I'm doing 6 weeks, 6 people, individual coaching per week, per person, and then a once a week Zoom call with the 6 participants and myself, sharing what we're learning. Because what I want to do is I want to build a monadic system, which is, it's going to bring something up in each one of us. And we're all going to have a different aha as to how these pieces fall in. And when we can collaborate together on a Zoom call about what we're exploring within ourselves and what we're identifying with between what is it like to be an indigo? How does Chiron tie into the indigo system? What are the tools and skills that are working for me? And what is the real frequency expansion into the grids? How do we harness that and work with that? So I'm starting small. I know I can do 6 people on a Zoom and manage it and talk with it and play with it. So if you would like to do that, first come, first serve. So sign up. Cutoff is on May 29th. So you've got a week or so to think about it. And there's dates that are published on the website and on the connection as to what times you can look at for coaching and when the actual Zoom calls are. So masterclass, if that appeals to you, by all means, please sign up. I would love to do this on a small group level with you.
Heck yes. And that link is also in the show notes. So make sure that you tune in with that. What's the deadline for everyone to sign up?
May 29th.
May 29th.
And it starts the week of June 1st. So, and June 1st, I start listing, June 2nd, I start listing out the different individual times. And then that first Thursday is when we're doing the Zoom call.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you guys get in on this for sure. It's like a little laboratory for indigos. I love it.
It is. And I think that, I did the best I could bringing information in over the last 7 years, channeled, talking, building, and now all of a sudden, with this Ascension Glossary, it's like, boom, we just expanded beyond what the book says that much faster by really bringing it into the dynamics between the soul incarnating into a body. So the indigo part has some challenges to it. And we've talked, about the emotional challenges. We've talked about the physical challenges. We spent last session talking about all the genetic discrepancies that are happening in the irritations and the predictable disease or inflammation or challenges, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so would it make sense to me that whether it's emotional or it's energetic, that what we are I don't think that the indigo was really prepared on some levels, like that wipe the slate blank and come in, was how much value we were going to put onto the human experience and onto the familial experience and then onto the 3D experience, that we would take it all so personally. Like, I'm not getting along. My family's really different than I am. I don't feel good. And if we can look at that and say, well, of course, that is the human experience, is to feel all these feels. And it is our challenge as indigos to step off of the victim mentality, which is these things are happening to me, and saying, hey, how do I transform these? How do I move around within them without adhering to the conditioned responses that are so normal? Like, hey, if you were a good daughter, you would love Mother's Day with your mom. And it was like, okay. And if if you were a good human, you would have a significant relationship and you would make a lot of money so you could pay a lot of taxes because we need that. Like, these are those things that we keep trying to match or compare or achieve from the external side that don't help us step out of the way we take the external world personally. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And so what do we do about that? I mean, let's talk about the soul body blending. I like that as an idea of like, how do we blend the body with the soul, and how do we release that, the taking things personally? How do we let that go? How do we, because that is the trick. I mean, I have some ideas, but I want to hear what you have to say.
When we allow those pieces to destabilize us, they take us out of our body, which means that we start to do like, hey, I'm too tall. Hey, my hair's too frizzy. Hey, I don't make enough money. Hey, I keep gaining weight. Hey, I wish I had a significant relationship that was this way. And so, or, hey, I can't seem to, and this was where I noticed myself over the weekend, which was as I was crunching in with this eclipse, I kept focusing on the pain rather than focusing on the shifting. So it's where we put our attention that we can heal it. So when we are in a soul body confrontation or polarity or simply just not getting along and collaborating, then how do we turn the attention in, which is, what do you need right now? How can I listen to you? How can I pay attention to you? And how can you learn to believe me? Because All of us do this. Hey, I'm going to take an embodiment class, or I'm going to do some great journaling and really, pay some attention to you. And then you close the book and you walk away for 12 days and your body's like, that didn't last very long.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to look at consistency and attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll pay attention to our kids, we'll pay attention to our pets, we'll pay attention to our jobs, we'll pay attention to whether our car's clean or not. I mean, think of the places where we put our attention, where we're forgetting that we have an entire system going, what about me? What about me over here? What about me? I'm hungry, but you just gave me crap. I'm thirsty. Do you know what dehydration looks like? Do you know what muscle pain looks like? These are all energetically solvable.
Mm-hmm.
You can remove these diseases from our system when we pay attention to them.
Yes.
In a different way. So where our attention goes is where our body responds. That makes the most amount of sense to me. And I'm the first one to say, hey, I gave you a little bit of attention. You're fine now, because I'm a hands-off mom, right? You need me, you'll come find me. And my body's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking of that unconscious, or when we're not mindfully looking at what we're putting into our mouth, what we're doing. And you just did the same thing with your research on your app. I just wrote the whole masterclass and a newsletter yesterday, and I realized I'm hunched over a computer for 7.5 hours and my body's angry and sore. And I'm thinking, oh, I forgot about you in the way that I was so excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had a toddler or a baby that was screaming, we'd have to go, oh gosh, I didn't get much done because I have to go take care of this baby. But our body starts to let us know, and we're like, shh, go away. And we dismiss it.
Yeah, it's true. And especially you get caught up in these creative, I get in these creative processes. And so just like you said, today I was like, oh, I've been on my computer for a few days, 12 hours straight each day. And I'm like, I need to block today. I need to practice some yoga. I need to stretch. And get things moving, because it's so easy to forget. And I think this is interesting. While I don't think it's unique to indigos necessarily, I think it's an interesting thing to look at when we talk about this soul body blending piece of, as indigos, we are very creative and we use different parts of our brain and we have these different psychic gifts, and it's very easy to go into that space. And I know we talked about it before the broadcast today, but I've also talked about it, over the last couple of weeks, which is I'm escaping using my gifts. It's much easier to lucid dream or to do a meditation or to go talk to my guides or whatever, than it is for me to sit down and do some stretching and some weights and connect in with my body. And so it's we have to find this balance of, we do want to take care of our body. We always feel good after we do it. And at the same time, manage those creative flows that come in, and looking at how we manage that. I mean, I think for me, I'm using my block when I sit on my chair. That's kind of one of the big things I'm doing. So while I am sitting at the computer and I'm working on reminding myself, where is my posture? But that's just one piece of it. There's so much else going on with the body. And like you said, the nutrition piece. And I know I shared this, I don't remember what show, but I've been using the word nutrition instead of food. Yeah. So I ask myself, what nutrition am I going to put in my body instead of food? And it's definitely changed my choices. But it's all of those, it's everything that has to do with the body. And it's our body is a great teaching tool.
Yeah. And what if we can begin to look at how far we've come as a human population? Because if we really go back and we look at the fact that we can say that the Gen Xers were the latchkey kids, that the Gen Xers were the ones who decided to make their own money, that the Gen Xers were the ones who started to bring yoga studios in everywhere they went, right? Or they started to participate in that. When women went to work on a different level, we can identify how each piece of the human patterning has started to shift a little bit. And if we look at from the mid 70s all the way till now, how we've progressed in understanding the chakra system, how we've progressed in understanding the value of organic food and nutrients, how we've progressed in doing consciousness and integrational work, how we have coaching and therapy and all of these systems that are about how do you get to know yourself better. And so, when we look at that, we have come light years in the human population just because the indigos arrived. And the beautiful part is we don't have to do anything with that frequency except for hold for the possibility of it. And then when we align and we do businesses or we do marriages or we do, personal health around that frequency, things pop and they manifest really fast. So like let's look at the historical perspective, which is we've been contributing so much. Now let's be gentler to ourselves and get out of the shame and blame, which is I'm not doing enough. If I'm not sitting on a block when I'm calling, then I'm not taking care of my body. And I was like, I'm not on a block right now. In fact, my feet are up off the ground and I need to put my feet on the ground. It's kind of like, just give yourselves a break, because that's where that dialogue ends up making that polarity further apart rather than closer together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one of the things that Lucas was very specific with on our last call is he texted in and he's like, would you please tell her that modeling is the form of leadership that the indigo does? And I'm like, oh, that's right. So when we catch ourselves and we go to compassion, which is, man, I forgot to bring I have to remember to drink my water when I'm talking this much. And do we need some more water? Do we need to take a break? And I'm using that same compassion to myself. I'm modeling that to this entire audience and going like, so this is how we lead. We don't get a bunch of people together and say, I have something I need to tell you. We show them with how we take care of ourselves and how we know ourselves intimately. And we do that deep self-care and that partnering. And that's how we keep ourselves healthy.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. And shout out to Crystal. Thank you. She should subscribe to your channel. So great.
Thank you, Crystal.
Yes. And don't forget about Buddhist Biohacker also. I'm finally, it went a little suspicious for a while. I didn't really have anyone subscribe for like a year last year. And I was very suspicious, but I see that has shifted recently. So I feel like whatever went on with the algorithms, things are shifting to the positive, which is good. We are running out of time as usual. And there's so much to get. I feel like you're going to have a whole other book by the end of this year. I mean, it's a lot of information.
I don't, I was given a really nice piece of wisdom, which is write a book with the basics, get it out there, and then save the big pieces as you expand for your interviews, for your conversations, because, believing that there isn't enough information in that book and I need to write another one is one way of looking at it. The other part of it is that right behind this is the crystal assignment, which is why did they come in, and knowing that at the core, the indigo is here to hold a frequency that's safety. And I love, again, if you look at the screen, the circle, which is we're going to create a safe little circle so that the crystal can come in and we will birth them. They are our siblings. They are the younger ones that we take care of. They're the ones that we protect because they don't have that warrior energy. They hold a technology that's different. So it's a completely different part when we start to look at, as protectors of the Terran population and the new frequencies that are coming in, our role is ever changing and expanding. And the stronger we are in our sense of self, the more we support the frequencies that come in after us, and we adapt and grow with them too, because we morph as they go along. We become indigo crystals, then we become indigo crystal rainbows, and we start to grow it. And so the reminder for today is to know that your body and you, if there's tension, it's going to come out as disease, and it's going to come through the endocrine system, which makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Oh my gosh. We could talk for hours and hours, and here we are. I want to make sure everybody goes out and orders Denise's book right now. The link to the book and her Amazon author page is below in the show notes. And there's only 6 of you lucky people who are going to be in her masterclass. So please join Denise's masterclass and go subscribe to her YouTube channel. And thank you so much to everybody who's been watching. Denise, final words of wisdom today.
This assignment is so much bigger than we're still uncovering it. You know, we're 5 episodes in, and we've just started to peel back like, oh, there's more to the assignment. There's more to the assignment. There's more to the assignment. And that's what I like the most about this process is that we're curious, and we're making discoveries each time. So this show ends up being the one place where those layers are peeled off, and we're making those discoveries. So it's just so exciting to be supported by you to do this, to have an audience that is curious and wants to learn, and that we're capturing this. Because I even put in the book, by the way, you want to know more, go to the Indigo Frequency on YouTube with Lisa Gunshore and I, because it's going to be archived and you're going to be able to watch it forever. So go there and see how we talk about this stuff. So it's really nice to have a show and a book and a conversation and classes that are all working to build, as we said, the monadic expansion.
Yes. Oh my God, so beautiful. Well, we are all so grateful for you, Denise. And as an Indigo, I love hearing and talking about all of this information because it's always so activating. And I want to welcome everybody who is here with us to continue the conversation in the comments and ask questions and share what's activated for you always. And then my only plug today is that I will be back on tomorrow at noon with Julie Hoyle. She hasn't been on in a long time, so I'm happy to have her back. And we're going to be talking about her new book, The Shadow Work Diaries, which I have a chapter in. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow at noon. And Buddhist Biohacker Portal is going mobile on June 7th. So if you want to be first to download and get the sneak peek, you want to go to BuddhistBiohacker.com, click VIP portal, or there's a banner at the top about the mobile and you can get on the wait list. So thank you, Denise. I love you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone who attended and everyone who's going to be watching this and listening to this. We just adore your support. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a